My 2025 investment plan. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down my 2025 plan. What am I doing in terms of the property market? What am I doing in terms of my business, my health, my lifestyle, my personal faith I'll touch on a little bit as well. And how can you apply this to your own 2025 goals? I think it's exciting. Emily and I used to sit down every year, grab a pen and paper, and this is my plan here, grab a book and write down on 2 pages a 2025 plan and what your ideal week looks like. So I want to break down for you some key goals for my year this year. And obviously we're going to be focusing on the real estate and the financial freedom side. So what I'm physically investing my funds into. But I also think it's important to talk about the lifestyle, the health, the holidays, the spiritual things, because that encompasses a good life. It's not all about making money. My life is not all about making money. Making money is great. It's a good thing to do. But if that's the thing you put first in your life, I don't think you have a very complete life, in my opinion. So my goals for 2025 include a lot of areas. But let's kick off with the property goals, because I think that's an interesting one to start off with. If you haven't seen, my beautiful wife Emily did pass away from ovarian cancer late in 2024. And so that will potentially put property, as far as building the asset base, on the back burner. And the portfolio, which I'm going to give you guys a full breakdown this year of the property portfolio, sits around that $8 million price point, depending on the market valuations, whether it's a bank val, a personal valuation, a sales agent valuation can be even higher, roughly around $8 million. And I'm going to share what the net worth and things like that are, so make sure you subscribe to the channel if you do want to see those detailed numbers in the future. But in terms of the property portfolio, I'm finishing off a major renovation project at the start of this year for the renovation that Emily and I were doing with our team, with our boots on the ground team here in Brisbane. And that's called the Bray Park Bomb. So we bought that property for $640,000. And Tess, our renovation project manager, has been handling all of the trades on the ground, and all the clients get to work with Tess as well, if she does take on the client renovations too. And so it's been great going through that process with Tess and the team, and seeing the property take a full transformation. I did go get my hands dirty as well, if you see me on Instagram or on other social media channels, painting and sprucing the place up a little bit. But to be perfectly honest, my heart's not so much in it anymore in terms of the renovating. Renovating for me was about creating wealth and financial freedom for Emily and I. And now losing Emily, I have lost pretty much all motivation to ever want to pick up a paintbrush or, a drop saw and things like that. And I know it's been a big part of the channel, renovating, and it still will be, because we're going to show client renovations, but I'm not going to be hands-on anymore. I can't see that being good for myself or my boys. I've got 2 young boys, which are Asa, he's 2.5, and Eli is 1. And so my boys need my attention and focus. So as far as the property portfolio goes this year, we're going to be finishing that major project, which is a house and granny flat. The house has received a full transformation, and the granny flat is being built in an existing structure, all fully approved with a certifier. And that's due to be finished at the end of January or early February in 2025. So that's the start of the year in terms of the property portfolio. And then moving late into 2025, we have our other property, which you may have seen if you've been following the channel for a little while. We bought a property in Shayla Park. Now that property, I can also build a granny flat on. And it can be a big granny flat, or I can potentially look at chatting with town planners and doing other things. But I'm likely to look at building late in 2025 or sometime in 2026, depending on the finances, and building that granny flat there essentially, which is a full-size home, spending about say $300,000 to $400,000 on the build, and expecting a rental return of around $650 per week, to give you a guide. So if I spend $300,000, I probably want about $600K. If I spend $300,000 on the granny flat, I want about $600 a week in terms of rental return. That's quite a good return for me, and will build me a very solid asset in terms of resale value, as well as the quality of the building for about $300,000. Is very expensive for a granny flat, but I want to make it feel like a fully blown home. And so that's why I would spend that amount of money doing that type of project. And I just know how expensive building and projects are these days. I was used to renovation prices from 2020, 2021, even 2022. 2024 property renovation prices in 2025 are astronomical. And I know if you're looking at renovating your own home or renovating an investment property, the prices can be ridiculous. And that's why we help clients in that space as well. So it's probably a good transition to talk about the business. So one of my big business goals this year is consistency. That's my word for 2025. Not that I haven't been consistent in prior years, but just given the turbulence of my personal life with my beautiful wife passing away and changes to my schedule, I want to be consistent. So I'm going to be consistent on the YouTube channel, consistent in showing up for my management team and my staff and my clients. But that does mean we are going to limit the number of clients we work with this year. So I'm going to be putting a video out on this main channel every week. We've got the Unbound podcast, which is my Christian podcast, which you can check out as well. And then the business, it's all about that consistency. So we've got procedures and processes in place to dominate here in the Brisbane market. We see ourselves as the local area experts when people are looking to buy a property here in Southeast Queensland. And we surprise a lot of people. We work with a lot of locals as well as a lot of interstate clients because we see ourselves as being able to bring intellectual property, to bring our knowledge, skills, and experience and help clients buy the right property for the right price in the right location. Which, if you see on my back here, I think you can see that. That's our slogan. That is our business slogan, is the right property for the right price in the right location. And it's really important to me that we provide really high quality service. You know, you can't make 100% of people happy. You're never going to be able to do that as a business owner, but I want to be consistent and show up for our clients. And that's the way I can do it, is through those procedures, processes, and the team that we've got in place, as well as myself being the key contact for clients too, which I love doing. So that's the plan from the business side. So we've touched on property, we've touched on business. Let's touch on other assets. So shares, cryptos, penny stocks. What am I looking at in terms of investing outside of that property and business space? For me, I quite like ETFs. So I'm expanding the ETF holdings this year. I'm very into my Vanguard funds, so your VAS and things like that. But it's not a big part of my net worth. I'm predominantly in property because I can understand leverage and the ability to hold a bigger asset base, and I can understand how expensive it is to create a home. What I can't understand is valuations on some of these tech companies and valuations on businesses that, yes, they have procedures and processes and cash flow running through them, but really there's not a lot of, unless all you're paying for a lot of those stocks is what is their intellectual property or what is their edge in the market. So it's not my space. It's not going to be a large portion of my net wealth. Cryptocurrencies are not for me. Again, I'd rather trade Monopoly money or Pokemon cards makes more sense than crypto to me, because I can understand the nostalgia effect of things like that. And I've got a few, figurines and Rick and Morty's and things like that lying around, but really it's a small part of my life and what I do. And as I mentioned earlier, podcasts. So moving forward, I'm going to be doing the Unbound podcast once a week with myself and bringing on some guests as well. So if you're interested in that, that's a Christian podcast talking about my everyday life and my faith in Jesus, and sharing a little bit more personally. So if you're interested in that, head over to the Unbound podcast, because that's something else I'm doing in 2025 and looking to be consistent with. Now, I've got to talk about health and lifestyle because, yes, this is a 2025 investment plan and goals video, but if you don't have your health, you're not really looking after yourself, and you've got lots of money, I feel like you're missing out on a lot of things. And so Emily and I both really valued our health, and I saw her do everything she could to be as healthy and strong as she could as she was fighting her cancer journey. And with me, for my health this year in 2025, and moving forward, with Emily passing away, it's a big deal for me to look after myself. And so the two things I'm focusing on are whole foods and fitness this year. So whole foods for me just means, and I don't have a sponsorship with these guys, but I use a company called Farmer's Pick, and they send out a box every fortnight of organic fruit and veggies for about $80. It's an unreal deal in my opinion. It's just a box full, it's about 3 kilos worth of fruit and veg. And you can say, I don't want certain things. I don't want grapefruits or I don't want chilies and things like that. But it's awesome because I get fruit and veg every 2 weeks dropped at my door. And it means I make more meals with more fruit and veg. So that's the whole foods part of my diet. So cutting out as much processed food as possible. And the fitness side is to be pain-free because I am 30. Emily gave me a card which says, yep, you're 30 and I'm not. So I turned 30 last year, and I want to be as fit as possible to play my football. And that means training 5 to 6 times a week. And so that means dedicating time and making space for that to be a priority. And so those are my big goals in terms of health. That kind of leans into lifestyle. My lifestyle one's quite funny. With the big renovation project that we did this year on our raise and build here in Southeast Queensland, we spent so much money. It's been such an expensive build in terms of the cost to lift our home, build it underneath and create our dream family home. And I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back and spend less money because Emily got to see the house be finished, which is super exciting. And I will get a professional video of the property because we haven't done a final or a finale episode of the Growing Gable series. And I want to do it right. I don't want to rush it and put an iPhone walkthrough of the property. I want to get good footage together and make it a nice finish to that Growing Gable series, which could take me months to do. But my goals in terms of lifestyle this year is to cut a bit of spending and to live simply. And the last thing I wrote down was spend money on things that really make a difference. So if you need, I've got Purpose Property shirts, which we have to wear every day for our business. If you need joggers to run in, if you need shorts or work pants, buy those things, but spend money on things that really make a difference. That's my big goal for 2025 in terms of lifestyle and holidays and things like that. Holidays, spend the money on them. They make a difference. Those memories and experiences matter. And, I've been skiing by myself when Emily broke her collarbone at one point. And I was just skiing for a couple of days by myself, and can be quite depressing. Like, spend money on those experiences because life is short. And I'm going to enjoy the time I've got with my boys, being healthier and enjoying those experiences we get together. The last part, I'll talk about is my faith. And, for me, my faith is a personal and a public journey. I talk about my digital self and my in-person self. For me, this year, the key word for me around faith is endurance. Seeing Emily pass from ovarian cancer is the hardest thing I've gone through in my life. And I'm so blessed to be where we are. But she's not with me anymore. And that's really hard. So this year is about enduring. And so that's the word I've got. If you want to hear me talk more about my faith and go into more detail, make sure you head over to the Unbound podcast because it'd be awesome to see you over there and talk more about that in more detail. But that is my 2025 goals. I've also set out an ideal week. So I'm going to be working 4 days a week. So I'm looking at, Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, for example, in the business, taking a couple of days in the earlier part of the week for the kids. And then also having some rest on Sundays. And that's an ideal week. No 2 weeks are the same. But that's the way I set out my 2025 goals in each of those areas, not just finances alone, but it's a more holistic view, as well as trying to map out an ideal week in my notebook here, but rarely ever sticking to it because every week is different. Now, if you want to help me kick your property goals for 2025 and you're looking to buy your own home or an investment property here in the Southeast Queensland market in the next 3 to 6 months, then head over to purposeproperty.com.au to book in a free strategy session with myself. And if you're not looking to buy a property in Brisbane and you're buying somewhere in Australia and you want to build your knowledge and skills in terms of building a property portfolio, we have our real estate investment course called Invest with Purpose. And that breaks down how to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. And I think spending the money on a resource like that, which you can always come back to, is invaluable if you are actually going to take action and move forward in your property investing journey. So head over to purposeproperty.com.au if you're interested in those things. And thanks for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one. Oh yeah, click this video here because YouTube really thinks you'll like that one. See ya. Peace.